There are nights when your soul feels like it's standing at the edge of a cliff, where courage disappears, where fear whispers, "You're on your own now." But listen to me very carefully with your heart, not your ears. There is a surah that was revealed when even the strongest believers felt their knees shaking, a surah that pulled them out of fear and wrapped their hearts in a strength that did not break. And tonight, that same strength is reaching for you. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? And what time is it in your city or country? Because someone else, somewhere on this planet, is watching at the exact same moment. And they need this courage just as much as you do. When your heart finally admits it's tired. There comes a moment in life when even the bravest heart begins to tremble, not because you are weak, but because you've been strong for far too long. You hide your pain behind a smile. You hold your breath during the storms. You convince people you're fine while your soul keeps whispering, "I can't keep carrying all of this alone." Courage doesn't break in one day. It breaks slowly in the disappointments that pierced you, in the promises that were broken, in the rejections you pretended didn't hurt, in the heavy silence of nights when you prayed for strength but woke up feeling even more exhausted. And somewhere between holding on and giving up, your heart begins to whisper fears you never said out loud. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? What if this problem swallows me whole? But the truth is deeper than the fear. You are not weak, you are simply human, and when a heart reaches the edge of its strength, that is exactly where divine courage begins to descend. This is the moment this surah was revealed for, not for people who have everything figured out, but for the ones who are shaking inside, pretending to be strong on the outside, and desperately needing a reminder that the one who created their heart can rebuild its strength in a single moment. The surah that descended when fear surrounded even the strongest hearts. Long before you and I ever felt fear, there was a moment in early Islamic history when the atmosphere itself carried a weight that pressed on every believer's chest. It was a time when uncertainty stretched across the horizon, when enemies were many, when resources were few, and when the future felt like a wall you couldn't climb. Even the most courageous hearts felt the tremble of doubt, and even the companions who stood beside the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam felt the heaviness of the unknown. Imagine the nights during that time. The silence was not peaceful, it was filled with questions, with whispers of worry, with thoughts that kept returning no matter how much they prayed. The believers weren't questioning their faith, they were questioning their strength. They weren't asking, "Is Allah with us?" They knew He was. They were asking, "Are we strong enough to face what is coming?" And then in a moment, where fear squeezed their hearts the same way fear squeezes yours, this surah descended. Not as a warning, not as a command, but as a divine message saying, "You are not standing alone. You are protected in ways you cannot see. The one who guides you knows exactly what stands ahead of you." This surah came like the first warm light after a long, cold night. It didn't remove their challenges. It didn't erase the dangers around them. But it poured a strength inside their souls that no enemy could break, no fear could destroy, and no uncertainty could shake. Every verse carried the same quiet message. Courage does not come from your strength. Courage comes from knowing that Allah is with you. And as these verses entered their hearts, everything began to shift. Their breath steadied, their fear softened, their determination ignited. They realized something powerful, that when Allah strengthens a heart, nothing in this world can weaken it. This is the same surah that reaches your heart today. The same surah that was sent when courageous people felt overwhelmed. The same surah that helped them rise when they thought they couldn't. The same surah that turns trembling into trust, and fear into a calm that cannot be explained by logic, only by divine comfort. It didn't just calm the believers of the past. It was revealed for you, for your battles, for your heartbreaks, for your silent fears, for your lonely nights, and for every moment when you wondered whether you could take one more step. This surah is a reminder that the one who guided them through fear will guide you through yours with the same mercy, the same strength, and the same protection. How this surah breaks fear from the roots of your heart. Fear is not only in your mind. It lives in hidden corners of your soul, in memories that still sting, in disappointments you never healed from, in moments where you felt abandoned, in the wounds you covered instead of treating. This surah does not speak to the surface of your fear. It goes straight to where the pain actually lives. When you recite it, something unusual begins to happen. The verses do not simply enter your ears, they enter your heart, slowly breaking the chains that fear wrapped around it. You begin to feel a shift, a warmth, a reassurance that doesn't come from human words, but from the one who created courage itself. Fear grows in darkness. This surah brings light, not the kind your eyes see, but the kind your soul feels. Fear grows when you replay the worst possibilities. This surah reminds you that your life is written by the one who never plans without wisdom. Fear grows when you feel alone. This surah stands as a reminder that you are never walking through anything empty-handed. Every verse lifts your heart like a hand holding you gently from inside your chest. It tells you that your worries don't define you, your mistakes don't cancel you, and your struggles don't weaken your worth. It reminds you that courage isn't about having no fear. Courage is about trusting the one who controls every outcome, every path, every closed door, every delay, every heartbreak, and every victory. This surah teaches you something people rarely understand. Courage is not an emotion. Courage is a spiritual state. It is born the moment your heart realizes that your fears are small compared to the one who protects you. Think about how many times you carried fear alone. Think about the nights you cried quietly so nobody would notice. Think about the plans you paused because you doubted yourself. Think about the dreams you buried because fear told you they were impossible. Now imagine a surah that touches those exact areas, the hesitation, the doubts, the silent pain, and begins to dissolve them one by one, like light melting darkness from the room. This surah replaces, "What if I fail?" with, "What if Allah supports me?" And it replaces, "I'm scared" with, "I'm guided." It replaces, "I'm alone" with, "I'm protected." It replaces, "I can't do this" with, "Allah will give me strength." When you recite it, you are not just reading verses, you are stepping into a divine atmosphere where your fear loses its power. The surah enters your heart like a shield, making you stronger than you realized, braver than you imagined, and calmer than you ever believed possible. It is not magic. It is divine mercy. It is a reminder that courage is not something you find outside. It is something Allah places inside you when your heart connects to His words. And this surah has been giving courage to believers for over 1,000 years. Tonight, it is waiting to give it to you. The surah that holds your heart. There are days when life feels heavier than your shoulders can carry, days when you wake up already exhausted, when you breathe but don't feel alive, when your thoughts feel louder than your hope, and when the world around you moves forward while you feel stuck in the same place. These are the moments most people hide from the world, but Allah does not let them be hidden from Him. It is in these exact moments, the ones you don't talk about, the ones you avoid, the ones you pretend don't hurt, that this surah becomes something more than verses. It becomes a companion, a comforter, a gentle reminder that you are being held even when you feel like you are falling apart. This surah teaches you that weakness is not a failure. Weakness is a human condition. Even the strongest hearts, even the most faithful people, even the companions who walked beside the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, felt moments of helplessness. They felt moments when their courage flickered, when their confidence cracked, when they wondered whether they could survive what was ahead. And in those moments, Allah sent them words not to criticize them, not to shame them, not to question their strength, but to remind them, "You are not expected to carry life alone. I did not create you to break." This surah comes to you in the same way. Its verses whisper to the part of your heart that feels abandoned. It reaches the part of your soul that still believes it must suffer in silence. It touches the wounds you never showed anyone. It tells you that every tear you cried alone was seen. Every pain you tucked inside your chest was counted. Every fear you tried to suppress was heard. Every silent prayer you made while lying in the dark was recorded in your Lord's knowledge. This surah does not simply say, "Be strong." It says, "You are cared for, protected, guided, and held." It says, "Your destiny is not determined by fear, it is written by mercy." It says, "Don't let the waves of the world drown your heart. The one who controls the ocean is standing with you." Fear tells you to retreat. This surah tells you to rise. Fear tells you you're alone. This surah tells you you're supported by the most loving. Fear tells you the problem is bigger than you. This surah reminds you that nothing is bigger than the one who watches over you. When you recite it, you may not notice an immediate change in your life, but you will notice a profound change in your heart. Your breathing will slow, your mind will soften, your soul will settle, and you will begin to feel a strength that doesn't come from your muscles. It comes from trust, from surrender, from knowing that you are held by a power that never weakens. This surah is a hand extended to you from the realm of mercy, telling you that your story is not defined by how many times you felt afraid, but by how many times you turned back to the one who gives you strength. It is not a surah you read only when you are confident. It is a surah you read when you are breaking, because it is in that breaking that Allah rebuilds you into someone stronger than you ever imagined. Tonight, if your heart feels tired, if your courage feels drained, if your hope feels dim, then know this: you are not failing, you are being prepared. And this surah was sent to help you walk through the pain, not with the strength of the world, but with the strength of the one who created your heart. The courage you thought you lost. There is a type of courage inside you that life has slowly buried. It didn't disappear overnight. It faded under the pressure of expectations, the weight of losses, the disappointment of broken plans, and the exhaustion of pretending to be okay when your soul was screaming for relief. You used to dream boldly, but life humbled you. You used to speak confidently, but experiences silenced you. You used to walk with certainty, but now even small decisions feel heavy. But here is the truth nobody told you. Courage never dies, it only sleeps. And this surah is one of the divine keys that awakens it again. When you recite it, the verses travel through your heart like a quiet wind moving through a locked room. They push aside the dust of sadness, remove the heaviness of fear, and reveal the strength that has always been yours. The strength you forgot, the strength you doubted, the strength you thought was gone forever. This surah reminds you that your courage was never dependent on people, circumstances, or perfect conditions. It was always tied to your connection with the one who controls every moment of your life. The moment his words enter your heart, the courage inside you rises like a flame brought back to life after being smothered. Think about how long you have carried fears that were not meant to stay with you. Fears of failing, fears of being judged, fears of losing people, fears of starting again, fears of trying one more time after being disappointed too many times. This surah confronts those fears not with force, but with divine reassurance. It tells you that your strength does not come from your past. Your courage does not come from your achievements. Your bravery does not come from the approval of people. It comes from the one who guided the believers before you, the one who strengthened the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who has been holding your heart even on the days you felt unworthy of being held. And the more you recite this surah, the more you feel something shift inside you, a calmness replacing anxiety, clarity replacing confusion, and a steady confidence replacing the fear that once controlled your steps. This surah doesn't just give you courage for today. It gives you courage for the future you fear stepping into. It gives you courage for the decisions you delayed because you were unsure. It gives you courage for the healing journey you avoided because you felt too broken. It gives you courage for the opportunities you were too scared to accept. Most people look for courage outside, in people, in words, in plans, in distractions. But this surah teaches you that real courage blooms from within, when the heart surrenders its fears to the one who already wrote the outcome. And when that happens, something incredible unfolds. You start walking with a strength that cannot be explained, a peace that cannot be defined, and a confidence that cannot be shaken, because you finally realize that nothing in this world can overpower the heart that Allah strengthens. So, if you ever feel like courage has left you, read this surah again. If you ever feel unsure of the path ahead, read it again. If you ever feel your chest tighten with fear, read it again. Because every recitation pulls you closer to a version of yourself that fear can no longer control. This surah does not just return your courage. It rebuilds it into something unbreakable. When you recite this surah daily, there is something extraordinary that happens when you recite this surah consistently, not once in a moment of panic, not occasionally when life feels heavy, but daily, with sincerity, with trust, and with the quiet hope that your heart will find the strength it has been searching for. When you bring this surah into your routine, it becomes more than a recitation. It becomes a shield, a companion, a source of inner strength that grows quietly inside you, changing the way you breathe, the way you think, and the way you respond to the challenges life throws at you. At first, you might not notice the shift. You recite it, and your life may look the same. Your problems may still be there. Your fears may still whisper. Your uncertainty may still push against your chest. But slowly, so slowly, you barely notice it, the surah begins its work inside your soul. Your heart becomes a little steadier. Your thoughts become a little clearer. Your reactions become calmer. And the fear that once controlled you begins to fade. Not because your circumstances changed, but because you changed. Every time you recite this surah, it strengthens the connection between you and the one who never leaves you. Every verse reminds you that the world is not in control, Allah is. Every line teaches your heart to stop magnifying your problems and start magnifying His power. Every recitation plants seeds of courage in the places where fear used to grow. And slowly, your life begins to transform from within. Moments that once made your heart race become easier to face. Situations that used to overwhelm you no longer break you. People who once intimidated you no longer define your worth. Challenges that once felt impossible begin to feel manageable. Because this surah does something incredible, it rewrites how your heart interprets fear. Fear says, "What if this goes wrong?" This surah teaches you to say, "What if Allah helps me?" Fear says, "You can't handle this." This surah whispers, "Allah will strengthen you." Fear says, "You might break." This surah reminds you, you are protected, you are guided, you are not alone. When you recite it daily, your soul becomes familiar with its rhythm. Your heart begins to anticipate its comfort. Your mind begins to trust its promise. Your courage begins to rebuild from the ground up. People around you may not understand how you suddenly became calmer, stronger, more confident, more trusting, but you will know your strength did not come from the world. It came from divine words that rebuilt you silently. This surah turns your heart into something the world cannot easily damage. It strengthens your inner world so deeply that your outer world can no longer break you. It prepares you for challenges before they even arrive. It gives you a courage that grows not because life is stable, but because your trust is. And the longer you hold on to this surah, the more you realize something life-changing. Courage is not something you wait for. Courage is something Allah places inside you the moment you truly surrender your fears to Him. This surah becomes a light that does not flicker when the wind blows. It becomes a stability that does not collapse when life shifts. It becomes a courage that does not weaken when fear returns. If you want your fear to lose its power, if you want your heart to stop shaking every time life becomes uncertain, then hold on to this surah, not with your lips alone, but with your soul. Because daily recitation doesn't only change how you feel, it changes who you become. Recite this surah in your darkest moments. There are moments in life when you feel as if the entire world is standing against you, when every door you try to open feels locked, when every path you walk feels uncertain, when every effort you make feels invisible, and when every prayer you whisper feels unanswered. These moments test you in ways people will never understand, because nobody sees how many battles you fight inside your chest. But something profound happens when you recite this surah during those moments, something that does not appear in the physical world, yet changes everything in your inner world. The help of Allah does not always arrive in the form of miracles that everyone can see. Sometimes it arrives quietly, invisibly, in ways only your heart can feel. When you recite this surah while your soul is trembling, you awaken a kind of support that does not belong to this world. You may not see angels, but you feel protected. You may not see a path, but you feel guided. You may not see a solution, but you feel a certainty growing inside you, a certainty that whispers, "You will get through this. You are not walking alone." This surah brings with it a promise that fear will never win over a heart that trusts the one who controls all outcomes. That darkness will never overpower a soul that carries the light of divine words. That weakness will never break a person who is strengthened by the one who holds their destiny. Think about the believers before you, the ones who recited this surah in nights far darker than anything you have faced. They recited it when enemies surrounded them, when resources were low, when hope was thin, and when fear pressed on their hearts like a mountain. And yet, every time they held on to this surah, something invisible began to shift. Their courage returned. Their resolve reignited. Their hearts stabilized. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because they changed. Their fear turned into certainty. Their doubts turned into clarity. Their anxiety turned into strength. This surah does not promise you a life free of hardship, but it promises you something far more powerful: a heart that does not shatter under hardship, a soul that does not collapse under pressure, a courage that does not disappear when fear rises. And when you recite it during your darkest moments, something remarkable happens. Doors you never noticed begin to open. Paths you thought were blocked begin to clear. Opportunities you thought were lost begin to return. Strength you thought you didn't have begins to rise. People may think you suddenly became strong, but you will know the truth. Your strength was rebuilt by verses that touched your heart in places even you couldn't reach on your own. This surah teaches you that the greatest victories in life come not from perfect circumstances, but from a heart anchored in divine reassurance. It teaches you that courage is not loud, it is quiet, steady, patient, born from trust. It teaches you that when you recite with sincerity, Allah sends you a kind of support that no human can match. And here is the most powerful truth of all. Every time you recite this surah in fear, you are not merely calming your heart, you are inviting unseen help, divine protection, gentle guidance, and a strength that carries you above what once terrified you. This is the help that does not shout, does not force, does not shake the earth. It appears softly, quietly, beautifully, in the form of a courage you cannot explain, a peace you cannot describe, and a certainty that fills your chest like a rising dawn. Tonight, if fear sits inside you like a weight, recite this surah, not hurriedly, not mechanically, but with a heart that is ready to receive. Because the moment you recite it in your darkest hour, unseen help begins to move toward you. My dear brothers and sisters, if you are listening to this right now, it is not by accident. Your heart was brought here because there is a courage inside you that Allah wants to awaken again. You may feel tired, you may feel overwhelmed, you may feel unsure of tomorrow, but nothing you are facing is bigger than the one who is guiding you through it. You have carried fear for too long. You have walked with heaviness that was never meant to be carried alone. But tonight, with this surah in your hands and sincerity in your heart, you are reclaiming a strength that life tried to take away from you. Every verse you recite is a reminder that you are protected. Every breath you take after reciting is a sign that you are being held. Every tear that falls during recitation is a message that Allah is closer to you than your own heartbeat. So breathe, rest, let your heart soften, because the fear that once controlled you will not win this time. You are not the same person who began this video. Your heart has already been touched, strengthened, and lifted. And remember this, whenever courage feels distant, whenever fear returns to your doorstep, whenever your heart begins to shake again, open this surah, recite it with trust, let its light settle inside you. You don't need to know how Allah will solve your situation, you just need to know that He will. You don't need to see the path, you just need to trust the one who walks it with you. And you don't need to feel strong because the one who gives strength has never left you. If this reminder touched your heart, then share it with someone who needs courage tonight. Help someone else rise again the way your heart is rising right now. And before you leave, write in the comments, I trust Allah with my fears. Let this be your declaration. Let this be your beginning. May your nights be calmer, your days be brighter, and your heart be filled with a courage that never fades. Ameen.